The late afternoon light in Rome has a quality unlike any other place on earth, and you feel it the moment you step out into it, that particular golden warmth that seems to emanate not from the sun alone, but from the very stones of the city itself, as though 2,000 years of sunlight have been absorbed into every column and wall and paved street and are now being released slowly, gently, back into the cooling air as the day draws toward its close, and the sky above is shifting from blue to amber to something deeper. And the first hint of evening is beginning to settle over the 7 hills like a soft and welcoming veil. And so your walk begins, carrying you into an evening that has been repeated 1,000,000 times in this city and yet is, tonight, entirely your own. You enter the Roman Forum from the east, stepping onto the Via Sacra at the hour when the sun hangs low and heavy over the Capitoline Hill, and the effect is immediate and transporting, for there is something about this place in the late afternoon that makes you feel as though you have stepped not merely into a different part of the city, but into a different layer of time itself, a layer where the marble is warmer and the shadows are longer and the air carries the particular weight of a day that is not yet finished, but is already beginning to release its hold on the world. The Temple of Saturn rises before you with its 8 remaining columns, and at this hour they are transformed from mere architecture into something closer to music, for the golden light strikes the fluted marble at an angle that sets each groove singing with alternating brightness and shadow, and you notice that the capitals at the tops of the columns catch the light more intensely than the shafts below them, as though they are wearing crowns of molten gold, and the effect against the deepening blue of the sky behind them is so beautiful and so particular to this exact moment of the day that you understand, in a way that you might not at any other hour, why the Romans built their temples with such care and such ambition. For they understood that buildings are not simply shelters or symbols, but instruments that play upon the light. And at this hour the Temple of Saturn plays upon the light with a mastery that no other instrument could match. You walk past the Arch of Septimius Severus, and the relief carvings on its face are alive with the warm amber light. The figures of soldiers and chariots and captured barbarians emerging from the stone as though they are stepping out of the shadow of the archway and into the last warmth of the sun. And even though these carvings celebrate military victories that belong to the recorded past of the empire, there is nothing aggressive about them at this hour, for the golden light softens everything, transforming conquest into pageantry and triumph into something that feels more like ceremony, more like a ritual performed not for the sake of domination, but for the sake of beauty. And you pause for a moment to let your eyes trace the lines of the carving, following the curve of a horse's neck and the sweep of a standard held high. And the stone is warm beneath your fingertips when you reach out to touch it, warm the way only stone that has been absorbing sunlight all day can be warm. The rostra stands silent now, its curved marble platform empty of the orators who have shaped the course of Roman politics from this very spot. And in the golden light the stone takes on a quality of deep repose, as though the platform itself is resting after the exertions of the day, and you can almost hear the echoes of speeches that have been delivered here across the centuries, voices rising and falling in the rhythms of Latin rhetoric, but those echoes are faint now, barely more than a vibration in the warm air, and they are fading further with each passing moment as the sun continues its descent behind the Capitoline Hill. And yet there is a richness even in this fading, for the echoes of all those voices seem to have soaked into the stone over the years, becoming part of its very substance, so that the rostra is not merely a platform, but a kind of archive, a record in stone of everything that has ever been spoken from its surface. You come to the Basilica Aemilia and let your hand trail along one of the polished marble columns, feeling the smooth groove of the fluting beneath your palm, the stone cool now in the shadow but still holding a memory of warmth. And the sensation is remarkably soothing, for there is a particular pleasure in touching something that has been touched by thousands of hands before yours, that has been worn smooth not by tools but by the simple passage of human fingers across its surface over the course of generations, and you feel a connection in that touch that has nothing to do with language or knowledge and everything to do with the simple, persistent human desire to reach out and feel the world, to confirm through the sense of touch that the world is real and solid and present, and that you are a part of it. The marble beneath your hand is the color of aged cream, and where the light touches it there is a faint golden sheen, as though the stone itself is luminous, as though it generates its own gentle radiance in the gathering dusk. A senator's clerk emerges from the curia, the bronze doors of the Senate house closing behind him with a sound that is low and resonant, and in his hand he carries a small oil lamp that he has just lit, and the flame casts a warm circle of light on the white fabric of his toga as he descends the steps with the careful, unhurried pace of a man who has spent the day in the service of deliberation and who now carries that deliberation home with him in the measured rhythm of his footsteps. And you watch the small flame bob gently as he walks, a tiny point of warmth moving through the cooling marble of the forum. And it occurs to you that this is one of the oldest gestures in human experience, the lighting of a lamp to carry you through the darkness, and that the Romans performing this simple act are participating in a ritual that predates their city by millennia and will outlast it by millennia more. A street sweeper with a broom of bundled twigs pushes his way slowly across the forum pavement, gathering dust and fallen leaves and the small detritus of the day into neat little piles, and the sound of the twigs brushing against stone is gentle and rhythmic, almost hypnotic in its regularity, and the dust motes that his sweeping raises float in the last shafts of golden light like tiny particles of amber suspended in honey. And there is something deeply comforting about this simple act of maintenance, this quiet labor that ensures that when the city wakes tomorrow morning it will wake to clean streets and swept pavements, and you feel a gratitude toward this unnamed worker that you cannot quite articulate, a gratitude for the invisible labor that keeps the world functioning, that holds the fabric of civilization together with nothing more than brooms and water and steady, patient effort. The shadows lengthen now, stretching across the forum like long dark fingers reaching toward the east, and the marble that was warm to the touch begins to cool, releasing its stored heat into the air in a gentle exhalation that you can feel on your face as you walk. And the first oil lamps appear in their bronze sconces along the colonnades, tiny flames that seem impossibly small against the vast scale of the temples and basilicas around them. and yet each one creates its own small universe of warm light, its own small circle of comfort in the gathering darkness. And one by one they are lit, and one by one the forum transforms from a sunlit public space into a lamplit corridor of shadows and gold. And you walk through this transformation as though you are walking through the turning of the day itself. And the sensation is one of profound and unhurried peace. You pause in the middle of the forum and turn slowly in a full circle, taking in the lamplit temples and the darkening sky and the last traces of gold on the highest pediments. And you feel that you are standing at the center of something vast and ancient and beautiful, and that this moment, this particular evening in this particular place, is a gift that you did nothing to earn, and that you will carry with you long after the night is over. The temple of Vesta's glow is faintly visible in the eastern darkness, and the temple of Castor and Pollux rises like a fragment of a dream against the amber to blue gradient of the sky, and the Basilica Julia's long colonnade stretches away into shadow, each arch a frame for a small rectangle of deepening twilight. And the cumulative effect of all these structures, all this marble and all this history gathered into one space and lit by the last light of the sun and the first light of the lamps, is almost overwhelming in its beauty. And you are grateful that you are here now to witness it, to feel it, to let it wash over you like a warm wave that carries everything before it and leaves behind only a deep and resonant stillness. You leave the forum through a narrow side street that curves between two of Rome's ancient hills, and the quality of the city changes around you as you walk, shifting from the grand and public to the intimate and domestic, from the marble monuments of civic life to the plaster walls and wooden shutters of everyday existence. And the transition is so gradual and so natural that you hardly notice it happening until you look back and realize that the temples and arches have disappeared behind you, replaced by the close and comfortable geometry of residential streets, and the light has changed too, for the tall buildings on either side catch and hold the warm amber of the late afternoon, bouncing it back and forth between their walls so that the street itself seems to glow with a soft interior light, as though the air itself has been tinted by the color of the stone. The insulae rise on either side of you, these great apartment blocks that house so much of Rome's population, and at this hour they are coming alive in a different way than they were alive during the day. For now the cooking fires are being lit on the upper floors, and thin threads of smoke are rising from the chimneys, curling upward into the deepening sky like pale grey ribbons. And the smell of the smoke mingles with the smell of bread that is still warm from the bakery you passed a moment ago, and with the sharper, greener smell of olive oil being heated in a pan somewhere nearby. And these smells together create an atmosphere of such deep domestic comfort that you feel your shoulders relax and your breathing slow. For this is the smell of homes, of families gathering, of the day's labor giving way to the evening's rest. And it is a smell that transcends any particular time or place, speaking as it does to something fundamental in the human experience of evening. You breathe it in, and you are home, even though you are a stranger in this city, even though you have no roof of your own here. For the smell of evening meals cooking is a language that needs no translation. You pass a bakery where the ovens are cooling, the great brick arches still radiating a gentle heat that you can feel as you walk past the open doorway. And inside you can see the last loaves of the day resting on wooden racks, their crusts golden brown and cracked in that beautiful way that fresh bread cracks as it cools, and the baker himself is nowhere to be seen, having perhaps stepped into the back room for his own evening meal, but the evidence of his day's work is everywhere. In the flour dusted across the wooden counter, and the worn wooden paddles leaning against the wall, and the faint but unmistakable aroma of freshly baked bread that fills not just the bakery but the street outside it. And this aroma follows you as you walk, a warm companion that lingers long after the bakery itself has disappeared behind you, and it mingles with the other scents of the street in a way that creates a kind of olfactory map of the neighborhood, each building contributing its own particular note to the overall fragrance of the evening. A small plaza opens before you, no larger than a modest room, and in its center a fountain gurgles softly, water tumbling from the worn mouth of a stone lion into a shallow basin. And the sound of the water is so gentle and so steady that it seems to mark the passage of time more reliably than any sundial, each splash and ripple a small moment in the endless flow of evening toward night. And around the base of the fountain someone has arranged pots of herbs, rosemary and thyme, and something that might be basil, and the scent of these plants rises in the cool air of the plaza, mingling with the mineral smell of the fountain water, and you pause here for a moment, letting the sound and the scent and the fading light wash over you, and you feel, in this small and unremarkable space, something that you might call the genuine soul of the city. For Rome is not only its temples and its forums and its great public works, but also these small neighborhood fountains and these quiet residential plazas, and these moments of stillness that occur in the spaces between the monuments. Children are being called inside by their mothers, and the calls drift down from the upper floors of the insulae like soft echoes, the names familiar and musical in the Latin tongue, and you hear the sounds of small feet running across wooden floors and the thump of a door closing, and then a gradual quiet settling over the street, as though the neighborhood is exhaling, releasing the energy of the day in one long, slow breath. And you notice that the light has changed again, the amber deepening towards something richer and darker, something that is no longer quite daylight but not yet quite night. And in this transitional light, the plaster walls of the insulae take on a warm rose gold color that is extraordinarily beautiful. And you understand that this is a color that exists for only a few minutes each evening, and that most people who live in this street have probably never noticed it. So busy are they with the practical business of cooking and eating and settling children, but you, who are walking through this street as a stranger with no obligations and no destination, have the luxury of noticing, and you are grateful for it. And the calls of the mothers, which a moment ago seemed like interruptions, now seem like the most natural sound in the world, for they are the sound of care, the sound of love expressed in the simple act of calling a child home. Somewhere beneath your feet, far below the pavement, you can hear the distant rush of the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's great sewer, carrying water and waste away from the city toward the river, and the sound is faint but steady, a subterranean river of its own that reminds you that beneath the visible city there is another city, a city of tunnels and drains and water channels that keeps the surface city clean and functional. And the Romans have built this underground city with the same engineering brilliance that they have brought to their aqueducts and their temples and their roads. And the result is that Rome, alone among the great cities of the world, does not drown in its own waste when the rains come. And this is the kind of achievement that is easy to overlook because it is invisible, hidden beneath the streets. But it is no less remarkable for being hidden, and you feel a quiet admiration for the engineers who designed this system and the workers who maintain it, laboring in the darkness beneath the city so that those above can walk clean streets and breathe clean air. The sound of the underground water is a constant reminder that this city, for all its beauty above ground, is supported by a foundation of practical ingenuity that most visitors will never see. A cat watches you from a warm stone windowsill as you pass, its amber eyes catching the last of the daylight, and it regards you with the particular indifference that only cats can achieve, an indifference that is not hostile but simply complete, a state of being that acknowledges your presence without feeling any need to respond to it. And you find this indifference oddly comforting, for it suggests that the cat is perfectly at home in this street, that it belongs here in a way that you, as a visitor, do not, and that belonging is a state that does not require awareness or effort, but simply exists, the way the warmth of the stone exists, the way the smell of the bread exists, the way the sound of the fountain exists. All of these things belonging to this street and this evening with an ease and naturalness that human beings can only aspire to. The plaster walls of the insulae are cool to the touch now as you trail your fingers along them, but beneath the coolness there is that same stored warmth you have felt everywhere, the warmth of the day held in the material of the city like a memory held in the body, and the plaster itself is painted in faded colors, traces of red and ochre and blue that have been softened by years of sun and rain into something closer to the natural tones of the stone. And these faded colors give the walls a quality of gentle age, the age not of decay but of comfortable maturity, of a surface that has settled into itself and is at peace with the passage of time. You begin the gentle climb up the Aventine Hill, and with each step the air grows slightly cooler and slightly fresher, for the Aventine is one of Rome's quieter hills, less crowded than the Palatine, less public than the Capitoline, and in the evening it becomes something close to a retreat, a place where the noise of the city falls away and is replaced by the softer sounds of gardens and groves and the distant murmur of the river, and you feel the transition in your body as you walk, the tension of the lower city releasing from your muscles with each upward step, as though the hill itself is drawing the day's exertions out of you the way a sponge draws water from a surface. The path beneath your feet is paved with smooth stones that have been worn by generations of footsteps, and each stone is still warm, holding the heat of the afternoon like a small banked fire, and the warmth rises through the soles of your sandals and into your feet and up through your legs, a gentle and persistent warmth that seems to encourage you to keep climbing, to keep ascending toward the cooler air and the clearer views that await you at the top. Orange groves appear on either side of the path, and the scent of citrus reaches you on the evening breeze. That particular fragrance that is at once sharp and sweet, and that seems to carry with it the warmth of the Mediterranean sun even as the air around you cools, and the oranges themselves are visible among the dark green leaves, glowing like small warm lanterns in the fading light, and the effect is enchanting, for it is as though the trees have decorated themselves for the evening, hanging their own small lights among their branches, and you walk between these glowing trees, feeling as though you have entered a garden that exists partly in the real world, and partly in some gentler dream of the real world, where the colors are richer and the air is sweeter and time moves more slowly than it does in the streets below. The leaves of the orange trees rustle softly in the breeze that comes up from the river, and the sound is a gentle whispering that seems to accompany your footsteps like a quiet commentary on the beauty of the evening. And you pause for a moment beside one of the trees and reach out to touch one of the oranges, and the skin is cool and slightly rough beneath your fingertips, and the fruit is heavy on the branch, and you can smell the essential oils that your touch has released, a bright and clean fragrance that cuts through the heavier scents of the evening and clears your mind like a splash of cold water. From somewhere behind a high garden wall, you hear the sound of laughter, the warm and easy laughter of people gathered for an evening meal, and you catch a glimpse through an open colonnade of a triclinium, the dining room where Romans recline on couches to eat and drink and converse, and the room is lit by oil lamps that cast a warm and convivial glow over the marble floor and the painted walls, and you can see the suggestion of figures reclining on the couches, though you cannot see their faces, and the sound of their conversation reaches you only as a murmur, a gentle wash of Latin syllables that rises and falls like the sound of a distant fountain. And there is something about this scene that fills you with a quiet happiness, for it reminds you that beneath all the grandeur of the empire and the majesty of its public buildings, there is this simpler and more enduring reality of people gathering to share food and laughter at the end of the day. And this reality, this simple human reality of supper and conversation and the pleasure of company, is the foundation upon which all the grandeur rests, the bedrock of daily life that makes everything else possible. Ceramic lamps are being lit one by one along the hillside, and you watch the process with a sense of unhurried pleasure, for there is a meditative quality to the way the small flames appear in sequence, each one creating its own small island of warm light against the deepening blue of the evening. And the lamps are simple things, nothing more than small clay vessels filled with olive oil with a linen wick, but the light they produce is extraordinarily beautiful, a warm amber glow that is softer and more forgiving than any modern illumination, and it falls upon the garden walls and the tree trunks and the stone paths in a way that makes everything look more beautiful than it does in the harsh light of midday, for lamplight does not reveal the world so much as it interprets it, casting warm shadows and gentle highlights that transform ordinary surfaces into something rich and inviting. And as the lamps multiply, the hillside begins to look like a reflection of the sky above, for the stars are appearing now, tiny points of white light against the deepening blue, and the lamps below mirror them with their tiny points of amber light against the darkening green. And the two firmaments, the celestial and the terrestrial, seem to be in conversation with each other, exchanging light across the space that separates the earth from the heavens. You come to an overlook on the eastern side of the hill, and before you the Tiber stretches out in the valley below, and the river is catching the last light of the sun and reflecting it back in long shimmering ribbons of copper and gold. And the boats that are moored along the banks are silhouetted against this reflected light, their masts and rigging drawing thin dark lines across the brightness. And the overall effect is one of extraordinary serenity, as though the river itself has become a ribbon of liquid gold laid across the landscape. And you stand at this overlook and watch the light fade slowly, gradually, the gold becoming amber, and the amber becoming rose, and the rose becoming the deep blue of evening. And each stage of the fading brings its own particular beauty, and you find that you have no preference for one stage over another, for each is perfect in its moment, and each gives way to the next with a grace that seems almost choreographed. The air at the overlook is perfectly still, not a breath of wind, and the silence is so complete that you can hear your own heartbeat. And the heartbeat seems to sync with the slow rhythm of the lights fading, each beat of your heart marking another small increment in the transition from day to night. The first fireflies begin to appear in the gardens below the overlook, and their small lights blink on and off among the dark foliage in a pattern that seems random but is in fact deeply ordered, for fireflies flash in specific rhythms that are signals to potential mates, and the result is a gentle constellation of tiny lights that appears and disappears and reappears in the darkness, and it is, in its own modest way, as beautiful as the stars that are beginning to emerge in the sky above, and perhaps more beautiful, for the fireflies are close enough that you can see them individually, can track the path of a single light as it moves through the branches of an orange tree, and there is an intimacy in this proximity that the distant stars cannot provide. The fireflies move through the garden like wandering thoughts, appearing and vanishing without pattern or purpose, and yet the overall effect of their combined light is one of enchantment, as though the garden has been sprinkled with tiny fragments of the moon, and you watch them for a long time, letting their gentle blinking fill your vision and your mind, and you feel the day's remaining tension dissolve in the presence of these small and luminous creatures who know nothing of empires, or temples, or the concerns of human beings, but who simply glow, because that is what they do, because that is what they have always done, and the simplicity of it is its own kind of wisdom. Below the overlook, the city is settling into its evening shape, the individual buildings becoming indistinct in the fading light, merging into a warm and continuous mass of terracotta and stone that stretches from hill to hill, and the only clear details now are the lights, the oil lamps, and the cooking fires, which appear as small points of amber warmth scattered across the darkening landscape like seeds of light sown in a field of shadow. And from this height, the city looks less like a collection of buildings and more like a living organism, a vast and gently breathing creature whose lights are its thoughts, and whose streets are its veins, and whose history is its heartbeat. And you watch it settle into sleep with the same tenderness that you would watch a child, for cities, like children, are at their most beautiful and most vulnerable in the moments before sleep. You descend from the Aventine along a winding path that brings you to the banks of the Tiber, and the air changes as you approach the river, becoming heavier and cooler, and carrying with it the particular smell of a large river in the evening, a complex fragrance of mud and fish and green algae and wet stone that is not unpleasant but is unmistakable, and it mingles with the smell of wood smoke from the boats and the faint salt tang that the river carries from its distant meeting with the sea. And the combination of these scents creates an atmosphere that is distinctly and recognizably Roman, for the Tiber is the city's artery, its connection to the sea and to the wider world. And the smell of it is the smell of everything that flows in and out of Rome: the grain from Egypt, and the wine from Gaul, and the olive oil from Spain, and the spices from the East, all of it passing along this river at some point in its journey. The Pons Aemilius stretches before you, Rome's first stone bridge, and at this hour it is lit by oil lamps placed at regular intervals along its railings, and the warm amber light of these lamps is reflected in the dark water of the river below, creating a double row of lights that stretches from one bank to the other, the real lamps above and their reflections below. And the effect is one of remarkable symmetry and calm, for the bridge seems to float between two skies, the real sky above, which is now deep midnight blue, and the reflected sky below, which is a darker and more liquid version of the same. And you walk onto the bridge and feel the solid stone beneath your feet and hear the water lapping against the bridge piers, and you are struck, as you so often are in this city, by the sheer durability of Roman engineering. For this bridge has stood for generations and will stand for generations more, carrying the weight of people and carts and animals across the river without complaint, a silent and tireless servant of the city it connects. The stone of the bridge is warm beneath your feet, still holding the heat of the day, and the warmth rises through your sandals and into your body as you walk, a gentle and grounding sensation that connects you to the physical reality of this ancient structure. Fishing boats are pulling in their last nets along the bank, and you watch the fishermen at work with a kind of quiet fascination, for there is a rhythm to their movements that is deeply soothing. The cast of the net, and the draw of the ropes, and the shake of the mesh that releases the catch into the bottom of the boat, and the net itself, when it is drawn from the water, gleams in the lamplight with a wet silver sheen that is very beautiful against the dark surface of the river, and the fishermen work without haste, for they have done this 1,000 times before, and will do it 1,000 times again, and the routine of it is its own reward, a steady pulse of effort and rest that matches the rhythm of the river itself. The fish that tumble from the net into the bottom of the boat flash silver in the lamplight for just a moment before settling into the darkness of the hull, and the sound they make, the soft thud of bodies hitting wood, is a sound that has been heard on the banks of the Tiber for centuries, since long before there was a city here, since the days when the river ran through marshland and forest, and the only witnesses to the fishermen's labor were the herons and the kingfishers that still patrol these banks in the twilight. Farther along the bank, the cargo boats from Ostia are moored in a long line, and these are larger vessels, broad-bottomed and sturdy, designed to carry the goods that keep Rome fed and clothed and supplied, and they sit low in the water, heavy with their loads, their canvas covers tied down against the evening dew, and their masts, which during the day are rigged for sailing along the coast, now lean at rest, like tired men leaning against a wall. And the smell that rises from these boats is the smell of commerce, of grain and timber and amphorae packed tight in their holds. And it is not a romantic smell, but it is an honest one. And it reminds you that the beauty of Rome, the temples and the fountains and the orange groves, is supported by this less glamorous but absolutely essential river traffic, this constant flow of goods that keeps the city alive. You walk along the embankment past these boats, and you can hear, from within some of them, the sounds of the boatmen settling in for the night, the clink of a ceramic cup, and the low murmur of conversation, and the scrape of a bench being drawn closer to a small brazier. And these sounds are the sounds of a river community that has its own culture and its own rhythms, a community that lives on the water and by the water, and that knows the moods of the Tiber the way a farmer knows the moods of the land. On one of the moored boats, a family is having their supper on deck, and the scene is lit by a single bronze lamp that sits between them on a low wooden table, and you can see bowls and bread and the glint of a ceramic cup, and the light falls on the family in a way that makes them look like a painting, a small domestic masterpiece set against the dark backdrop of the river and the city beyond. And you hear the low murmur of their conversation and occasionally the sound of a child's laugh, and you are moved by the simplicity of this scene, by the way these people have made a home on the water, eating their evening meal under the open sky with the river lapping gently against the hull of their boat. And you realize that this too is Rome. Not just the Rome of emperors and senators, but the Rome of river traders and fishermen and families who live their lives on the water and find in that life a kind of freedom and contentment that the grandest palace cannot provide. The boat rocks gently with the movement of the river, a slow and rhythmic rocking that is almost like a lullaby, and the lamplight sways with the rocking, casting moving shadows on the cabin wall, and the overall effect is one of such complete and unself-conscious peace that you feel your eyes growing heavy just from watching it. The water laps against the stone embankments in a steady and unhurried rhythm, and the sound is remarkably constant, a kind of natural metronome that seems to regulate the pace of the evening, and you lean against the warm stone of the embankment wall and let the sound wash over you. And the stone is still holding the day's heat, and it radiates against your back like a gentle hand pressing warm and steady. And above you the sky has deepened to the color of midnight blue velvet, and the first stars have appeared, bright and sharp and impossibly far away. And between the stars and the river there is this intervening space of warm air and cooling stone and the last traces of wood smoke. And you occupy this space completely, your body held between the warmth of the stone below and the coolness of the sky above, and the sensation is one of perfect balance and perfect peace. The river reflects the stars now, each one a small point of silver light trembling on the dark water, and the reflected stars seem closer than the real ones, as though the water has brought the heavens down to earth. And you gaze at the reflected stars for a long time, watching them tremble and shift with each ripple, and you feel that you are looking at something sacred, something that exists at the boundary between the world above and the world below. The first bats emerge from beneath the bridge, swooping and diving over the surface of the river in pursuit of the insects that hover above the water, and their flight is erratic and quick. Nothing like the steady glide of the birds you watched earlier, and yet there is a beauty in this erratic flight, a kind of wild and joyful abandon that is thrilling to watch. For the bats move through the evening air with a confidence that comes from perfect adaptation, their echolocation guiding them through the darkness with a precision that no human technology can match. And they are, in their own way, as much a part of the Roman evening as the oil lamps and the cooking fires and the laughter from the dinner tables, and you watch them until they disappear into the darkness beyond the bridge, small dark shapes swallowed by the larger darkness of the night. The river, meanwhile, continues its steady flow, utterly indifferent to the bats and the boats and the people on its banks. And there is a lesson in this indifference, a reminder that the river was here before Rome and will be here after Rome, and that the human world, for all its complexity and ambition, is a brief and transient thing compared to the slow and ancient flow of water toward the sea. You walk back toward the eastern edge of the Forum Romanum, drawn by a light that you have been aware of since you first entered this sacred space, a warm and steady glow that seems to pulse gently in the gathering darkness. And as you approach, you see that the light comes from the round temple of Vesta, one of the most ancient and most sacred buildings in all of Rome, and the light is the light of the eternal flame that burns within it. The flame that has been tended without interruption for centuries by the Vestal Virgins, and which represents nothing less than the continued existence of the city itself. And as you draw closer, the flame becomes more distinct, a bright point of warm amber light that seems to hover in the air at the center of the temple, surrounded by the pale columns that catch and reflect its glow in shimmering patterns on the marble floor. The temple is small by Roman standards, a circular building surrounded by 20 columns, and yet its significance is out of all proportion to its size, for this is the heart of Rome's religious life, the place where the sacred fire burns that connects the city to its gods and its past and its future. And the flame is visible through the columns, a bright point of warm amber light that seems to hold the darkness at bay not through force but through constancy, through the simple and unwavering fact of its continued burning. And you stand before this small temple and feel, perhaps for the first time in your walk through the city, a genuine sense of awe, for the flame you are looking at has been kept alive through wars and plagues and political upheavals, through the rise and fall of emperors, through every storm and every calm that Rome has known, and it burns still, here, now, in the gathering darkness of this particular evening, as steady and as bright as it has ever been, fed by cedar wood and tended by hands that have been trained since childhood in the sacred art of keeping a flame alive. The smell of burning cedar reaches you before you are close enough to see the flame clearly, and it is a clean and ancient smell, a smell that speaks of temples and altars, and the long human tradition of offering fragrant smoke to the gods. And the cedar smoke mingles with the cooler night air in a way that makes the scent seem to move in layers, the warm smoke rising and the cool air descending. and the two meeting somewhere at the level of your face in a fragrance that is both comforting and somehow elevating, as though the smell itself carries you upward, away from the ordinary concerns of daily life and towards something finer and more enduring. And you breathe it in deeply, letting the cedar fragrance fill your lungs and settle into your body. And it calms you in a way that goes beyond the merely physical, reaching into some deeper part of you that responds to the ancient and the sacred with a recognition that feels like memory, as though your body remembers, even if your mind does not, the countless generations of your ancestors who stood before sacred flames and breathed this same fragrant smoke and felt this same connection to something larger than themselves. Adjacent to the temple stands the house of the Vestal Virgins, the Atrium Vestae, a large and beautiful complex where the 6 Vestal Virgins live and work, and at this hour the house is settling into its evening routine. Oil lamps being lit in the windows and the courtyard, and you can see the warm glow of interior lights through the columns. And the effect is one of serene domesticity, for the Vestals, for all their sacred duties, live in a place that is also a home, with gardens and statuary and the quiet rhythms of communal life. And the contrast between the sacred intensity of the eternal flame and the comfortable domesticity of the house beside it is striking and beautiful, as though the two buildings exist in a state of perfect balance, the one representing the eternal and the other representing the daily, and together they form a complete picture of what it means to be human, to tend the eternal flame while also living an ordinary life, to serve the gods while also eating breakfast and sweeping the floor and going to sleep at night. The courtyard of the Atrium Vestae is visible through the colonnade, and in it you can see the shapes of trees and the glint of a small fountain and the soft light of lamps reflecting off the tiled floor. And the scene is so peaceful that it seems to exist outside of time, a small pocket of tranquility preserved at the heart of the bustling city. You step closer to the temple and look at the flame through the columns, and it is remarkably steady, barely flickering in the still evening air. And the color of it is a deep, warm amber that seems to come from somewhere deeper than mere combustion, as though the flame is burning not just with cedar wood but with the accumulated prayers and hopes of generations. And the light it casts on the marble floor and the marble columns is soft and warm, and alive in a way that no oil lamp can match. For this is not an artificial light, but a living one, a flame that breathes and moves and responds to the air, and you understand, looking at it, why the Romans believed that the survival of this flame was tied to the survival of the city, for the flame is a symbol of continuity, of the unbroken chain of days and nights that stretches from the founding of Rome to this moment and beyond. And if the flame were ever to go out, it would mean that the chain had been broken, that something fundamental had been lost. And the thought of that loss is genuinely unsettling, for it suggests that the order of the world is more fragile than it appears, that the things we rely on most completely, the things we assume will always be there, are in fact maintained by human effort and human vigilance. and that without that effort and that vigilance they would, in time, go out. And so you stand before the temple of Vesta in the deepening evening, and let the warmth of the sacred flame wash over you, and you feel, in the stillness of this most sacred space, a connection to something larger than yourself, larger than any single life or any single evening, a connection to the vast and ongoing story of human civilization, to the countless generations who have stood where you are standing and looked at this same flame and felt this same sense of wonder and this same gratitude for the persistence of light in a dark world. And the flame burns on, steady and bright and eternal, and the city sleeps, and the stars wheel overhead, and the river flows, and all is as it should be. And you carry the image of this flame with you as you turn away, a small point of amber light that you hold in your mind's eye the way the Vestals hold it in their temple, tending it carefully, keeping it alive. For there is something in the image of a steady flame burning in the darkness that speaks to the deepest part of the human spirit, the part that refuses to surrender to the dark, that insists on carrying light forward through the night. The cedar smoke follows you as you walk away from the temple, a fragrant ghost that lingers in your hair and on your skin, and you carry it with you into the darkness of the forum like a benediction, a small piece of the sacred that you are allowed to take with you into the profane world, and the warmth of the flame seems to have entered your body too, settling somewhere in your chest, a small steady heat that radiates outward through your limbs and into the cool night air. And you understand now why the Vestals tend this flame with such devotion, for it is not merely a symbol, but a source of genuine physical and spiritual warmth, a fire that feeds not just on cedar wood, but on the attention and love of those who tend it. You make your way into the Subura, the narrow and crowded district that lies between the Forum and the Viminal Hill, and by evening the character of this neighborhood has changed considerably from what it was during the day, for the Subura is Rome's entertainment district, its quarter of tavernas and cookshops and workshops, and during the daylight hours it teems with life and noise and commerce. But now, as evening settles, the energy is subsiding, the crowds are thinning, and the district is beginning the slow process of closing down for the night. And the transformation is gentle and gradual, like the settling of dust after a wind, like the quieting of a room after the last guest has departed. The tavernas are lowering their awnings, the great canvas shades that during the day protect the outdoor tables from the sun, and the awnings descend with a gentle rustle that seems to signal the end of the public day, and as they come down the character of the street changes, for the awnings, when they are raised, create a sense of openness and expansiveness, of a space that belongs to everyone. But when they are lowered, they enclose the tavernas, turning them from open-air establishments into private spaces. And this transformation happens street after street, taverna after taverna, until the Subura, which was a quarter of open doors and public gathering, becomes a quarter of closed fronts and private interiors, and the transition is gentle and gradual and completely natural, as though the district itself is breathing out, releasing the energy of the day in a long, slow exhalation. And with the lowering of each awning, a small piece of the day's warmth is released, for the canvas has been absorbing the sun's heat all day, and as it unfurls downward, it carries with it the memory of sunlight, a last breath of warmth that dissipates into the cooling evening air. A musician sits on the doorstep of a taverna and is carefully packing away his lyre, and you pause to watch him for a moment, for there is a tenderness in the way he handles the instrument, a gentleness that suggests he loves it not merely as a tool of his trade but as a companion, and his fingers move across the strings one last time, producing a soft and melancholy chord that hangs in the air for a moment before fading. And then he drapes a cloth over the lyre and tucks it under his arm and rises to leave. And the chord he played seems to linger in the street even after he has gone, a ghost of music that the evening air carries and softens and eventually releases. And you feel the loss of that small sound more acutely than you might have expected, for it was a beautiful sound, and its departure leaves a small silence in its place that is itself a kind of music, the music of evening settling in, the music of a city that is slowly, gently, reluctantly releasing the day and accepting the night. The musician walks away down the narrow street, his footsteps echoing softly off the plaster walls, and the lyre beneath his arm is still, its strings no longer vibrating, its voice silenced until the morning, when it will sing again. The smell of wine and garum is fading now. The sharp and pungent odors that during the day define the Subura's streets are dissipating in the cooler evening air, and they are being replaced by the softer smells of home, of bread baking in small ovens, and of wood smoke rising from chimneys, and of herbs cooking in olive oil. And this olfactory transition mirrors the visual transition of the awnings coming down, the public giving way to the private, the commercial giving way to the domestic, and the Subura, which is Rome's most public district, is becoming for these few hours of the night something close to a neighborhood, a place where people live rather than merely work, and trade and seek entertainment. And the garum, that pungent fermented fish sauce that the Romans use in almost everything they cook, has left its residue on the air, a faint fishy undertone that mingles with the sweeter smells of bread and herbs and creates a fragrance that is complex and deeply Roman, a fragrance that speaks of a culture that has learned to transform the most unlikely ingredients into something that, if not exactly delicious, is at least deeply characteristic, a kind of culinary signature that identifies this city and this people as surely as the marble of their temples or the arches of their aqueducts. A tailor is closing his shop, and you watch as he moves through the small space with the practiced efficiency of a man who has performed this same routine every evening for years, folding bolts of fabric and covering the shelves and draping the measuring cord over its hook by the door. And the fabrics catch the lamplight in rich and varied colors, deep reds and warm browns and the pale ivory of undyed linen, and the tailor's hands move across these fabrics with a familiarity that is almost affectionate, for he knows every bolt and every fold and every texture, and the closing of his shop is not merely a commercial act, but a kind of ritual, a daily acknowledgement that the day's work is done and the night's rest is beginning. And as he extinguishes the last lamp and steps out into the street, the shop interior is plunged into darkness, and the rich colors of the fabrics disappear, leaving only a faint smell of wool and dye, and the tailor's own quiet footsteps fading down the street. And now you begin to hear the sounds of families through the open windows of the insula, and these sounds are extraordinarily intimate, for they are the sounds that are usually heard only behind closed doors, the sounds of private life that the public world is not meant to hear, and yet here in the Subura, where the buildings are close together and the windows are open to the evening air, these private sounds escape into the street and create a kind of accidental symphony of domestic life, a baby crying and then being soothed, a woman singing softly to herself as she works at some household task, the clatter of pottery being washed and put away, the low murmur of a conversation between a husband and wife, and these sounds overlap and interweave in a way that is deeply moving, for they remind you that behind every window in this crowded district there is a family living its life, with its own joys and sorrows and routines, and that the Subura, for all its reputation as a place of noise and vice, is above all a place where ordinary people live ordinary lives, raising children and cooking meals and going to sleep and waking up to do it all again. The woman's song rises and falls in a melody that you cannot identify, but that is clearly a lullaby, for it has the particular cadence of a song designed to soothe a child to sleep, and the melody is simple and repetitive and beautiful, and it floats out of the open window and into the street, where it mingles with the other sounds of the evening and becomes part of the general fabric of night that is slowly and gently wrapping itself around the Subura like a blanket. And there is a warmth in this crowded living that you find surprisingly comforting, for there is a human density to the Subura that creates a sense of community, of shared existence, of lives that are intertwined not by choice, but by the simple fact of proximity. And in the evening, when the public noise has died away and the private sounds emerge, this sense of community is at its most palpable, and you walk through these narrow streets feeling not like a stranger, but like a guest, an invisible and welcomed guest who has been invited to share in the simple and profound human experience of evening in a place where people live close together and care for each other in the small and unremarkable ways that matter most. A small shrine to a household god glows in a niche in the wall of one of the insulae, a tiny oil lamp flickering before a terracotta figure, and a few flowers have been placed at the base of the shrine, and the warm light of the lamp illuminates the flowers and the figure and the worn plaster around the niche in a way that is profoundly touching, for it is a reminder that even in this crowded and noisy district, people find space for the sacred, for the small acts of devotion that connect their daily lives to something larger and more enduring. And the lamp before the shrine burns with the same steady flame that burns in the temple of Vesta, only smaller, humbler, more intimate, a domestic echo of the eternal flame. And as you pass this shrine, you feel a wave of affection for the people of the Subura, for they are not the powerful or the wealthy or the celebrated. They are the ordinary people who do the ordinary work that keeps the city running. And yet in the darkness of this narrow street, they create their own small moments of beauty and devotion, their own tiny flames against the darkness. And these small flames, multiplied across 1,000 streets and 1,000 districts, are what keep the city alive, what give it its warmth and its humanity and its enduring soul. You turn south and begin to walk along the Via Appia, and full darkness has settled over the landscape now, and the road stretches before you like a dark ribbon running straight and true toward the distant horizon. And on either side the stone pines rise in their distinctive shapes, their tall bare trunks like the columns of some natural temple, and their dense dark canopies like the dome of that temple arching overhead. And the effect is one of extraordinary solemnity and peace. For the Via Appia by night is a very different road from the Via Appia by day, stripped of its traffic and its noise and its commercial bustle, and revealed in its essential character, which is a road built for the long passage of time and the steady movement of feet and wheels across the face of the earth. The stone pines are dark shapes against the sky, their canopies blocking the stars so that you walk through a tunnel of darkness punctuated by the small warm pools of lamplight on the road ahead, and the silence is profound, broken only by your own footsteps and the distant call of a night bird and the soft rustle of the pine needles in whatever breeze moves through the canopy above. Oil lamps have been placed at intervals along the road, and they cast warm flickering pools of amber light on the dark basalt blocks of the paving, and you walk from pool to pool, moving through alternating bands of warm light and cool darkness. And the rhythm of this movement is hypnotic in its regularity, for each pool of light reveals a few feet of road and then gives way to darkness, and then another pool appears, and then another darkness, and the effect is like walking through a sequence of small illuminated rooms, separated by short corridors of shadow, and each illuminated section of road is a small world unto itself, a circle of warmth and visibility surrounded by the vast and gentle darkness of the Roman countryside at night. The lamplight flickers gently in the evening breeze, causing the shadows to shift and dance on either side of the road, and the dancing shadows give the impression that the darkness itself is alive, that it is not merely an absence of light, but a presence with its own movements and its own moods. And yet it is not a threatening presence, but a companionable one, walking beside you in a kind of respectful silence, allowing the lamplight to define the space of the road while it occupies the space beyond. You pass the Circus of Maxentius, and by lamplight you can see only its outline, the massive arches and walls rising dark against the sky. And in the darkness the circus takes on a quality of dreamlike grandeur that it lacks in the harsh light of day. For the details that ground it in reality, the seats and the starting gates and the track surface, are invisible now, and what remains is the pure shape of the building, its scale and its ambition, and you feel, standing before it in the darkness, something of the awe that the ancients must have felt when they contemplated the works of their own predecessors. These massive structures that seem to have been built not by human hands but by some greater force, some civilizational energy that flowed through generations and expressed itself in stone and marble and concrete. The circus is empty now, and its emptiness is vast. For a building designed to hold 100,000 people holds its emptiness the way a cup holds water. And the silence within its walls is the silence of a space that knows what noise is and is currently choosing not to make any. The tomb of Cassilia Metella rises beside the road, its great cylindrical form dominating the landscape, and someone has placed an oil lamp at its base, and the warm light climbs the marble face of the tomb, revealing the carved frieze that runs around its circumference, the figures of military trophies and captives that celebrate the achievements of the woman who lies within, and the tomb is beautiful in the lamplight, beautiful in a way that funerary monuments often are, for there is a quality of permanence about tombs that other buildings lack, a sense that they were built not for the living but for eternity, and the marble, which during the day is bleached white by the sun, takes on a warmer and more human color in the lamplight, as though the flame is reminding the stone that it was once part of the living earth. The tomb has stood here for generations, watching the road fill and empty with travelers, watching the seasons turn and the crops grow and the rains fall, and it will stand here for generations more, a silent witness to the passage of time, and in the lamplight it seems almost to be sharing its accumulated wisdom with you, a wisdom that has nothing to do with the words carved on its surface and everything to do with the simple fact of its endurance. You pause at a funerary stele that stands beside the road, a marble slab carved with an inscription that you can just read in the lamplight, and the inscription is a simple one, the name of a man and the dates of his life and a brief statement about his character, and there is nothing remarkable about the words themselves. But there is something deeply moving about their permanence, for this man, whoever he was, has been dead for decades, perhaps for centuries, and yet his name remains here beside the road where he once walked, and the travelers who pass this stele on their way to and from Rome read his name and are reminded, if only for a moment, that he existed, that he lived and loved and worked and died, and that someone who loved him enough to carve his name in marble wanted the world to remember him, and the world, in its own slow and imperfect way, has obliged. The carved letters of the inscription are shallow and worn, the marble softening at the edges, and in a few more centuries the name will be illegible, and then it will be as though the man never existed, and yet for now In this moment, in the warm light of this oil lamp, his name is still readable, and that is enough. For the desire to be remembered is one of the most fundamental of human desires, and for a little while longer, on this particular evening, that desire has been fulfilled. Night birds call from the darkness beyond the reach of the lamps, their voices sharp and clear in the still air, and the sound is both lonely and consoling, for it reminds you that the countryside is alive even in the darkness, that the birds and the insects and the small mammals that live in the fields beside the road are going about their own evening routines, and the darkness that seems so complete to your human eyes is full of movement and sound and life to the creatures that inhabit it, and the Via Appia, which seems so solitary in the lamplight, is in fact a corridor of activity, a thoroughfare not just for human travelers, but for the foxes and the owls and the hedgehogs that emerge from their burrows and nests when the sun goes down, and you walk among them, a guest in their world, and you are grateful for the reminder that the night is not empty but full, not a void but a different kind of abundance. An owl calls from a cypress tree somewhere in the darkness, and its voice is low and resonant and carries a long way in the still air, and the call is answered by another owl farther away, and the two voices echo back and forth across the fields, a conversation in the darkness that you cannot understand, but that is nonetheless beautiful, for it reminds you that the world is full of languages that you do not speak, full of conversations that you are not part of, and that this is not a cause for loneliness, but a cause for wonder, for the richness of the world is infinitely greater than any single consciousness can comprehend. The basalt blocks of the road are worn smooth by centuries of traffic, and your footsteps on them produce a steady and rhythmic crunch that is remarkably meditative, for the sound is the same sound that millions of footsteps have produced on this same road over the course of hundreds of years. Soldiers and merchants and pilgrims and prisoners and emperors and slaves, all walking these same blocks, all producing this same sound, and the continuity of it is staggering, for the road beneath your feet is the same road that connected Rome to the south of Italy in the days of the Republic, and it will be the same road that connects whatever comes after Rome to whatever comes after that, for the basalt blocks are virtually indestructible, and the road they form will outlast every building and every institution and every empire that currently exists. And this is the kind of permanence that the Romans specialized in, the building of things that last, and you feel it beneath your feet with every step, the solid, unyielding, ancient permanence of stone. The rhythm of your footsteps becomes a kind of meditation, and your mind clears and your breathing deepens, and you walk the Via Appia in a state of peaceful attentiveness, aware of the darkness around you and the stars above you and the ancient road beneath you, and you feel, in this trinity of earth and sky and stone, a completeness that is deeply satisfying, as though the three elements are working together to hold you in a state of perfect balance and perfect calm. You leave the Via Appia and approach a villa that stands on the outskirts of the city, set back from the road behind a low stone wall, and the gate stands open, as though the house is expecting you. And through the gate you can see the peristyle garden, the central courtyard that is the heart of every Roman villa. And even in the darkness the garden is beautiful, for the moonlight falls upon it with a silver clarity that transforms the space into something ethereal and dreamlike. A garden of light and shadow that seems to exist not in the physical world but in some more refined and more beautiful version of it, a garden of the imagination rendered in stone and water and moonlight. The mosaic floor of the peristyle catches the moonlight and reflects it in 1,000 tiny fragments, for the tesserae, the small colored tiles that make up the mosaic, are set at slightly different angles, and each one catches the light in its own way, creating a shimmering surface that seems to glow with its own inner light. And the patterns of the mosaic, geometric designs in deep teal and warm brown and parchment, are softened and blurred by the moonlight, losing their sharp edges and becoming something more like the patterns you see when you close your eyes, the gentle, shifting patterns that float on the inside of your eyelids as you drift towards sleep. And you walk across this shimmering floor carefully, feeling the cool smoothness of the tiles beneath your sandals. Each step a small connection to the craftsmanship of the hands that laid these tiles so long ago, hands that are now dust but whose work survives, beautiful and intact, in the moonlit garden of this villa on the outskirts of Rome. The sound of water comes from a decorative fountain at the center of the garden, a small bronze figure from which water trickles into a shallow stone basin. And the sound is so gentle and so steady that it seems to have been designed specifically for this hour, for the night, for the particular quality of stillness that settles over a garden when the sun has gone and the moon has risen, and the only sounds are the sounds of water and wind and the occasional call of a night bird. And the water in the basin catches the moonlight and transforms it into small silver ripples that expand and fade and expand again in an endless and soothing rhythm. And the ivy that climbs the edge of the basin trails its dark leaves in the water, and each leaf sends its own small ripple out into the basin, so that the surface of the water is a constantly shifting pattern of silver lines on dark glass. And the effect is mesmerizing, for it is a pattern that never repeats exactly, that is always slightly different from the moment before, and yet is always fundamentally the same. And this combination of constancy and variation is deeply calming to the mind, which craves both predictability and novelty, and finds both in the simple motion of water flowing into a stone basin on a moonlit night. An elderly caretaker moves through the rooms of the villa, and in his hand he carries a small oil lamp that casts a warm circle of light on the floor and walls around him, and he moves with the slow and unhurried pace of a man who knows these rooms by heart, who has walked through them every evening for years. performing the same ritual of closing down the house for the night. And he stops at each lamp bracket and extinguishes the flame with a small bronze cap. And each time a lamp goes out, the room grows a little darker and a little quieter, and the caretaker moves on to the next lamp and the next, until the rooms behind him are dark, and the rooms ahead of him still hold their warm amber light. And he walks through the house like a gentle tide of darkness rolling through a sea of lamplight. His shadow stretches long on the marble floor, preceding him like a dark companion, and the sound of his sandals on the stone is soft and regular, a quiet heartbeat that moves through the rooms of the villa, marking the transition from day to night, from activity to rest, from the world of the living to the world of dreams. And you watch him from the shadow of a doorway, a silent observer of this nightly ritual. And you feel a deep respect for this man who tends not the flames but the spaces between the flames, who creates darkness not through absence but through intention, extinguishing each light with the same care that the Vestal virgins bring to keeping their sacred fire alive. The smell of rosemary and lavender rises from the garden, carried on the cool night air that drifts through the open colonnade. And these are the scents that the Romans associate with cleanliness and calm, for rosemary is used in baths and lavender is placed among linens. And the combination of the two creates a fragrance that is both refreshing and relaxing, a fragrance that seems to open the lungs and quiet the mind at the same time, and you breathe it in deeply, letting the scent fill you, and you feel your body responding to it, your muscles relaxing and your thoughts slowing and your breathing deepening, as though the herbs themselves are performing some ancient form of aromatherapy, reaching through the air and into your body and gently coaxing it toward rest. The rosemary is sharp and clear, cutting through the heaviness of the evening air like a blade of green light, while the lavender is softer and more diffuse, wrapping around the rosemary's sharpness in a kind of fragrant embrace. And the two scents together create a third scent that is neither one nor the other, but something new and something uniquely suited to this hour, to this place, to this particular moment in the long and gentle passage of the Roman night. The intimate quiet of a Roman home at night is something that you can feel in your bones, for it is a quiet that has been earned, a quiet that follows upon the activity of the day and the warmth of the evening meal and the conversation of family and friends. And it is not the empty quiet of abandonment, but the full quiet of contentment, the quiet of a place where everyone is where they should be and everything is as it should be. And the villa holds this quiet in its stones and its wood and its painted walls, absorbing the silence the way a sponge absorbs water, and releasing it slowly back into the rooms like a gentle exhalation. And you move through this quiet as though you are moving through something tangible, something you could reach out and touch, and it wraps around you like a blanket, warm and soft and completely encompassing, and you feel, in the depths of this quiet, that you have arrived at the place you have been walking toward all evening. Not a physical place, but a state of being, a state of restful awareness in which the body is still and the mind is calm and the spirit is at peace. And this state, this simple and precious state of being at rest in the world, is the gift that the villa offers you freely and without condition, the way the garden offers its scent, and the fountain offers its sound, and the moonlight offers its silver glow. And the caretaker finishes his rounds, and the last lamp is extinguished, and the villa is dark now, save for the moonlight that falls through the colonnade and the faint silver glow of the mosaic floor. And the caretaker himself retires to his small room at the back of the house, and the door closes softly behind him. And the villa is alone with the night and the moon and the slow trickle of the fountain, and it rests, as all houses rest at night, in a state of patient and trusting stillness, knowing that the sun will rise again and the lamps will be lit again, and the family will return again, and until then it will hold the darkness gently, like a cupped hand holding water. The silence of the villa at this moment is so complete that you can hear the moonlight, or at least you feel as though you can, for there is a quality to the light itself that seems to produce a sound, a high, clear, crystalline tone that exists at the very edge of hearing. And whether this tone is real or imagined does not matter, for the effect is the same either way, a deepening of the silence, a refinement of the stillness, until the villa and the garden and the night become a single continuous fabric of peace, and you are wrapped within it, held safely in the dark and quiet heart of a Roman home at rest. The painted walls of the rooms around you depict garden scenes and pastoral landscapes, and in the moonlight these painted gardens seem almost as real as the actual garden outside, their painted flowers and painted trees glowing with a soft and illusory life, and the boundary between the real and the painted, between the exterior garden and the interior decoration, blurs and dissolves in the darkness, so that the villa seems to exist in a space that is neither fully real nor fully imagined, but somewhere in between, a space of the imagination made tangible by paint and marble and moonlight. And this is the magic of a Roman villa at night, the way it dissolves the boundaries between inside and outside, between art and nature, between the world as it is and the world as we wish it to be. You climb to the Palatine Hill, the most ancient of Rome's 7 hills, the hill where legend says Romulus founded the city, and in the moonlight the path upward is visible as a pale ribbon winding through dark gardens and past silent walls, and the air grows cooler as you climb, and the sounds of the city below grow fainter, until by the time you reach the summit you are walking through a silence so complete that you can hear your own heartbeat, and the only light comes from the moon and the stars, which are extraordinarily bright up here, far above the haze of the city's lamps, and the constellations are crisp and clear in the deep midnight blue sky, and you feel, standing on this most ancient and sacred of hills, as though you are standing at the center of something vast and timeless, a point where the history of the city converges with the eternity of the heavens and the present moment. This particular moment of standing on the Palatine under the stars contains within it all the moments that have come before and all the moments that will come after. For this hill has been the heart of Rome since the very beginning, and it will be the heart of whatever comes after Rome, for hills endure long after cities fall. The night-blooming jasmine has opened along the garden paths, and its fragrance drifts through the cool air in waves, sweet and heavy and intoxicating, and the small white flowers are visible in the moonlight, glowing faintly against the dark green leaves like tiny stars that have fallen from the sky and taken root in the garden. And the jasmine is a plant that keeps its beauty for the night, saving its fragrance and its flowers for the hours when most people are asleep. And there is something generous about this, something that speaks to a kind of quiet and unassuming devotion to beauty, the jasmine blooming not for admiration, but simply because it is its nature to bloom when the sun goes down. And you walk through the garden breathing the fragrance and feeling the cool petals brush against your hands, and you are grateful for this small and perfect thing that the night has given you. The fragrance of the jasmine is so thick in the cool air that it seems to have a texture, a weight, a presence that you can almost feel on your skin, and it mingles with the cooler scents of the garden, the green smell of boxwood and the mineral smell of stone and the faint dampness of the fountain that still trickles somewhere in the darkness. And the combined effect is one of such complete sensory envelopment that you feel as though the garden has wrapped itself around you like a fragrant cloak. The imperial gardens are absolutely still, not the stillness of emptiness, but the stillness of completeness, of a place that is full and content and needs nothing more from this day. The manicured hedges stand in their geometric patterns like sleeping soldiers, and the marble statues catch the moonlight on their pale surfaces and hold it gently, and the fountains have been turned low for the night, their water trickling rather than flowing, and the overall effect is one of grandeur at rest, of power that has put aside its regalia and simply exists in the quiet and the dark, without need of display or demonstration. And you find this kind of stillness deeply restful, for it is the stillness not of absence but of presence, of a place that is fully itself and fully at peace. A marble bench sits in a small clearing among the hedges, and the moonlight falls on it in a way that makes the stone glow with a pale and cool luminescence. And the bench seems to be waiting, inviting you to sit, and you do, and the stone is cool through your clothing. A pleasant and grounding coolness that connects you to the physical reality of this place, and from the bench you can see, through a gap in the hedges, the city below, its lights twinkling in the darkness like a scattering of earthbound stars. And the contrast between the wild and unstructured beauty of the stars above and the ordered and intentional beauty of the city below is striking, and you sit between them, held in the space between the celestial and the human. and the space between is where you have been walking all evening, in the space between the ancient and the present, between the grand and the intimate, between the stone and the flesh. You come to the place where Romulus is said to have stood when he traced the sacred boundary of the city, and there is a simple stone marker here, nothing grand, just a rough block of ancient stone set into the ground, and yet the weight of legend hangs over this spot like a visible thing. For this is the point from which Rome expanded outward to become the greatest city the world has ever known. And the fact that such a vast and complex civilization grew from this one small point on one small hill is staggering to contemplate. And you stand where Romulus stood, and you look out over the sleeping city below, and you feel the sheer improbable scale of what was accomplished here, not in a single generation, but across hundreds of generations, each one building upon the work of the last. And you understand that Rome is not a monument, but a process, not a thing that was built, but a thing that is still being built, stone by stone, and generation by generation, and century by century. The stone marker is worn smooth by the hands of countless visitors who have touched it over the centuries, and you add your own hand to the count, pressing your palm against the cool, rough surface, and the contact is electric, or at least it feels electric, a jolt of connection that runs from the stone through your hand and up your arm and into your chest, as though the stone itself is reaching out to you across the centuries, acknowledging your presence and welcoming you to this most ancient and most sacred of places. And as you stand with your hand on this stone, you feel, with a clarity that surprises you, that the passage of time is not a loss but a layering, that every generation does not replace the ones that came before, but is added on top of them, like the layers of a painting that build up over years to create a depth and richness that no single layer could achieve alone, and that you, standing here now, are the latest layer in a painting that has been in progress for 800 years, and that your layer, your contribution to the ongoing work of Rome, is no more or less important than any other layer, for every layer is necessary, and every layer is beautiful, and every layer, including yours, will in time be covered by the layers that come after. And this is not a tragedy but a privilege, for it means that you are part of something that is larger than any single life, something that will endure and grow and deepen long after your particular layer has been absorbed into the whole. And looking out over the sleeping city from this vantage point, you see that every light below is a household. Every window with a glow behind it is a family settling into the night. And every silence is a story, a family story, unfolding in the quiet hours between sunset and sunrise. And the city that seemed so vast and overwhelming when you entered it this afternoon now seems intimate and human and knowable, for you have walked through its streets and smelled its bread and touched its marble and heard its evening sounds. And you understand now that Rome is not its buildings but its people, not its monuments but its moments, not its history but its ongoing and unrepeatable present. And this evening, this particular evening that you have spent walking through the city at dusk, is one of those moments, unrepeatable and irreplaceable and yours, and it will live in your memory long after the night is over, a warm and golden evening that belongs to you alone. A gift from the city to the stranger who walked its streets with open eyes and an open heart. You stand on the Palatine and you think about all the evenings that Rome has seen, and the number is so vast that the mind cannot truly comprehend it, for Rome has been a city for 800 years and more, and in that time it has seen nearly 300,000 sunsets, and each one has been different. Each one has painted the city in different colors and different shadows, and each one has marked the end of a day that will never come again, and yet the city endures, absorbing all those sunsets into its stones and its memory and its very identity, so that the Rome you see before you tonight is not merely the Rome of the 2nd century, but the Rome of every century, a palimpsest of evenings layered one upon another until the earliest ones have been worn smooth by time, and only the most recent are still sharp and clear, and the city carries all of them within it, the way a river carries the memory of every rainstorm it has ever known. The same stars shine over the same 7 hills tonight that shone over them when Romulus traced his sacred boundary, and the stars, unlike the city, do not change, or at least they do not change on any time scale that human beings can perceive, and there is a comfort in this constancy, in the knowledge that the patterns of light in the sky above you are the same patterns that every Roman who has ever lived has looked up and seen. The same Orion pursuing the same Pleiades across the same vast and dark and beautiful expanse, and the continuity of the stars connects you to every previous generation of sky watchers in a way that nothing else can. For the stars are the one thing in human experience that truly is eternal, or at least that is eternal on the scale that matters to us. And looking up at them from this ancient hill in this ancient city, you feel connected to something that transcends the merely human, something that was here before the first stone was laid and that will be here after the last stone has fallen. And in the face of that something, the worries and concerns of daily life seem very small indeed, and the mind quiets, and the body relaxes, and the eyes grow heavy, for there is a lullaby quality to the stars, a slow and vast and ancient lullaby that the sky has been singing to the earth since long before there were ears to hear it. The river still flows. Through every evening and every night and every dawn, the Tiber flows, and it has flowed since before there was a city here, and it will flow long after the city has changed beyond recognition. And the sound of it, the steady and unceasing rush of water moving toward the sea, is the longest continuous sound that Rome has ever known, a sound that was here before the first stone was laid, and that will be here after the last stone has fallen, And the river does not care about emperors or senates or the rise and fall of civilizations. It simply flows. And in its flowing, it reminds you that there are forces in the world that are larger and older and more enduring than any human achievement, and that these forces will continue their work long after every monument and every inscription and every memory has been ground to dust by the patient mills of time. And yet the river is not indifferent in the way that a rock is indifferent, for the river moves, and in its movement there is a kind of purpose, a kind of intention, as though the water knows where it is going and is in no hurry to get there, content to take each bend and each eddy as it comes, trusting that the sea is waiting at the end of the journey and that the journey itself is the point. The stones are still warm, even now, in the deepest part of the night. The marble and travertine and tuff that make up the bones of this city still hold the warmth of the day, releasing it slowly into the cool air in a gentle and continuous exhalation that you can feel on your skin. If you stand close enough to a wall or lean against a column, and this warmth is the warmth of 1,000 suns, absorbed and stored and released, a daily cycle of gathering and giving that the stones have performed for centuries, and there is something deeply reassuring about it, for it means that even in the darkness and the cool of the Roman night, there is warmth to be found, warmth stored in the very fabric of the city, waiting to be touched and felt and appreciated. And the warmth of the stones is like the warmth of a sleeping body, a warmth that persists even in rest, that is not diminished by stillness, but is in some way deepened by it, as though the stones, like sleeping children, are warmer when they are still than when they are active, their heat concentrated and conserved in the quiet hours of the night. The oil lamps still flicker. In windows and doorways and garden shrines and temple niches, the small flames of olive oil lamps still dance and sway, and each one is a small act of defiance against the darkness, a small declaration that the light will not be surrendered, and taken together they create a constellation of human warmth that mirrors the constellation of stars above. And the city at night is held between these two constellations, the one above and the one below, the celestial and the domestic, the eternal and the daily, and the space between them, the space where you stand and breathe and listen and feel, is the space where human life actually happens, in the overlap between the vast and the intimate, between the timeless and the temporal, between the stars and the lamps. Each lamp is tended by someone, lit by someone, placed by someone who understood that the darkness is easier to bear when there is light nearby. And the accumulated effect of all these small acts of light tending is a city that glows in the darkness like a jewel set in black velvet, a city that seems to be made of warmth and light and the gentle sounds of human life at rest. And you realize that this glowing city in the darkness is the truest and most beautiful expression of what Rome is. For the city is not its armies or its laws or its monuments, but its lamps, Its small and steady flames that burn in the darkness and say without words, "We are here, we are alive. We will not go quietly into the night." And the city dreams. Night after night, century after century, Rome dreams. And its dreams are the dreams of every person who has ever slept within its walls. The merchant and the soldier and the slave and the senator and the child and the grandmother, all of them dreaming their private dreams under the same stars and within the sound of the same river. And the city holds all these dreams in its stones, the way it holds the warmth of the sun, absorbing them and storing them and releasing them slowly into the night, so that when you walk through Rome in the darkness, as you are walking now, you are walking through a landscape that is not merely physical but psychic, not merely stone and marble, but memory and desire and hope and fear. And the city, in its dreaming, is more alive than it ever is in the daytime. For in the daytime the city is occupied with the business of being a city. But in the nighttime the city is free to simply be, to dream its ancient and endless dreams. And you are part of those dreams now. You who walk through the streets at this unlikely hour. You who are awake while the city sleeps. You who carry your own dreams into the dreams of Rome, and the two sets of dreams, yours and the city's, mingle and merge in the darkness until it is impossible to tell where one ends and the other begins, and that is as it should be. For the boundary between the dreamer and the dreamed is always thinner at night, and on this night, in this city, it is thinner than it has ever been. The evening has its own gentle logic. It comes the same way every time. The light dims, the air cools, the lamps are lit. The sounds of the day soften. This has happened every evening for as long as people have gathered in places and called them home. It is the oldest routine in human experience, older than any city, older than any civilization. And across all those centuries and all those evenings, the essential rhythm has not changed. People finish their work. They return to the places where they feel safe. They eat. They sit together. They speak softly. They grow quiet. They sleep. This is the deepest pattern of human life. It is as old as the first campfire. The stones of Rome have absorbed more evenings than any of us can count. They hold the warmth of 1,000 afternoons. And they give it back slowly through the night. You can feel it still, that ancient stored warmth. It is the warmth, not of fire, but of the sun, held by stone, released by stone, a gift passed from day to night, from the light to the dark, from what is seen to what is felt. There is a comfort in lamplight that never quite fades. the small flame, the warm circle it makes on the wall, the way it sways gently when the air moves. It asks nothing of you. It simply glows, and in its glowing it holds back the dark, not with force, but with patience, the patience of a thing that was made to burn. The river does not stop. It flows through the hours of darkness the way it flows through the hours of light, steady, unhurried, certain of its destination. There is a lesson in that. The river does not worry about the dark. It does not hurry toward the dawn. It simply continues, and so can you. Let the river carry your thoughts. Let them flow. Let them go. As your eyes grow heavier, let the image of the city remain, not the grand city, not the city of monuments, but the quiet city, the city of lamplight in windows, of bread cooling on a wooden rack, of a fountain gurgling in a small plaza, of jasmine opening in a moonlit garden, of a flame burning in a round temple. These are the images that matter. These are the images that last. These are the things that endure, not the arches, not the inscriptions, but the small daily rituals, the lighting of a lamp, the closing of a door, the singing of a lullaby, the breathing of a sleeping child. These are the things that have always mattered, and they still matter now, in this moment, in this quiet, in this darkness that is not empty but full. Let this story carry you now. Let the warmth of the stones and the steadiness of the river and the gentleness of the lamplight hold you. You have walked a long way this evening, through the forum at golden hour, through the streets between the hills, up the Aventine, along the river, past the sacred flame, through the quieting Subura, along the Appian Way, through a villa at rest, up to the Palatine, and now here, at the edge of sleep. Each step you took tonight was a step away from the concerns of the day. Each breath you drew was a breath drawn in an ancient place. Each moment of stillness was a moment given to you freely by the city. Let the story end. Let the rest begin. There is something universal about the way a city settles into night. It has happened this way for thousands of years. The fires dim, the voices soften, the lamps sway in the dark, and people close their eyes and trust that morning will come. That trust is the oldest faith. It requires no temple, no priest, no prayer. It is simply the act of lying down and letting go. And as you let go now, you are joining that long procession, the procession of all who have ever lain down in the dark, and let sleep take them. You walk the same path they walked, toward the same quiet, toward the same peace. The stones of Rome have watched this procession for centuries. They will watch it for centuries more, and tonight they watch you with the same patience, with the same warmth, with the same ancient steady grace. Your body is ready, your mind is quiet, the day is done, the city sleeps, and you will sleep too, gently, deeply, peacefully. The stars will keep their watch, the river will keep its flowing, the stones will keep their warmth, and in the morning, when the light returns, it will return for you. Rest now. You have earned it. Sleep now. Let the ancient city hold you. Let its 1,000 years of evenings carry you down into rest. You are safe. You are warm. You are home. The night will keep you. The stones will hold you. The river will sing you to sleep.